Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to another Room2Breathe Podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so thrilled to have each and every one of you here with us today. You know, you could be anywhere right now, but you chose to press play, and that tells me something. It lets me know that you are ready to reflect, ready to feel, ready to heal. So before we dive in today, I just want you to do something for me. Take a breath right now, wherever you are, a real one, a deep one. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Try it again. Inhale through your nose. Exhale from your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. And let your body know that it's safe in this moment to just be. Now, while we're getting in the mood, if you are feeling the vibe, go ahead and tap the screen, like, comment, and most importantly, share this episode out. Your support helps us to reach more amazing people who are here doing the brave work of healing and just kind of moving through life. We're all healing in real time. And of course, if you haven't already done so, give us a follow, subscribe to our channel, so that way you never miss out on a moment of what's coming next. Don't forget to stop by our website at theselfcareclub.org. We've got affirmative apparel, motivational merch, and free resources designed to walk with you wherever you are on your healing journey. Because around here, we don't just talk about healing, we live it, we breathe it, and we become it. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Today's episode is one that I wish I could have heard years ago, okay? We're going to talk about the hidden messages in the stories that we grew up on, the stories that were wrapped in glitter and gowns. Today, we're going to start to talk about the Disney characters that we adored, right? Growing up, all of the princesses, all of the characters, right? But they weren't just magical. We didn't understand it then. Hey, Rara. But it was like watching a mirror, looking in a mirror. The mirrors were the mirrors of our trauma, the mirrors of our silence, the mirrors of the little girls we used to be before life told us we had to shrink. So today we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to talk about the unspoken anxiety in Elsa's story. We're going to talk about the emotional neglect hidden in Cinderella's fairy tale. The overworking and perfectionism that Tiana saw. And the people-pleasing in Belle that looked a little too familiar. We're going to talk about how those stories became survival blueprints for us, how they shaped our expectations of love, strength, and identity, and what we can do now to shift the narrative. This episode is going to be more than about cartoons, you guys. We are going to talk about cycles. It's about reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your worth, and learning how to give yourself what nobody else has ever given you. So if something speaks to your heart today, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. It's our way of saying I'm healing, I'm growing, and I'm showing up for me. Okay? So are you guys ready? Let me see some green hearts. I got Janelle and Rara in here. Miss Darlene in the building. Let's just jump into this, guys. Let's talk about these fairy tales for a second, right? Most of us grew up, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, watching these magical stories unfold before our eyes, right? And never once did we think that they were teaching us about trauma, but they were. They weren't just about the castles and the love stories. They were about girls who were hurting, girls who were hiding, girls who were hoping, begging, pleading to be rescued. And now that we're grown, we can finally see, what was always right in front of us. Cinderella wasn't just some sweet, pretty girl in a dress. She was a survivor of abuse, neglect, emotionally manipulated, and forced to shrink herself in order to survive in her environment. And what did she do? Right? She kept cleaning. She kept being kind. She kept hoping that if she just stayed good, that somebody would come and save her. Does that sound familiar? Right? That's the little girl that's inside of us who stayed in an unhealthy relationship for too long. The woman who smiled through her pain. The one who made herself smaller, more digestible, less loud, just to be accepted from others. Okay, so if you don't identify with Cinderella, let's talk about Elsa, right? Elsa from Frozen. Elsa, she was powerful, she was gifted, but she was afraid of her own strength. She was told very early to conceal who she was and to not feel, right? So she locked herself away emotionally because, when you're punished for having feelings, you learn how to freeze, right? So Elsa speaks to the woman who learned to function while numb, right? The one who isolates when things get a little too heavy. The one that carries the weight of everyone else's expectations while hiding her own in fear. And what's wild is we thought that was normal, y'all. And don't get me started on Princess Tiana, right? From The Princess and the Frog, our sister, right? Our mirror. She's the one who believes that if she just works hard enough, if she pushes long enough, if she hustles harder than everybody else, then she will be worthy. But how many times, or are we going to just sit here and think that our worth is tied to what it is that we do? How many of us are still out here grinding ourselves into the ground, trying to prove our value? And we call it ambition, right? But sometimes it's anxiety just in a cute outfit. We saw a princess who never rested, who couldn't afford to dream, who didn't feel like she had time to fall apart. And I don't know about y'all, but that's not just Tiana's story. I feel like that's a little bit of my story too. And let's not forget Rapunzel. Y'all, Rapunzel was locked away in a tower. She was being manipulated every single day by someone who called it love, right? Mother Gothel gaslit her every day, told her that the world out there was too dangerous, told her that she couldn't survive on her own. And yet we celebrated her when she finally said, I want to know who I am, right? Sometimes it's the most dangerous people in our lives. Sometimes the most dangerous people in our lives were the ones who claimed that they loved us, right? And sometimes the most courageous thing that we can do is leave the tower and start your own healing journey. That's not weakness. That's a sign of rebirth. And, these crowns that we grew up admiring in these Disney movies, right? These crowns, they were built from brokenness, from silence, from survival. These weren't just fictional characters. These were the emotional blueprints, right? Ones we never had the language to name. And now we do, right? So now is our opportunity to begin to reclaim the fairy tale. Not by pretending that everything is perfect, not by honoring the pain that we carried in silence and choosing healing over performance, right? Because now we're not little girls anymore. We don't need to be rescued. What we need is to be seen, right? We need to feel safe. We need to stop pretending, right? We need to stop bleeding for crowns that we were never, that we never asked to wear. No one asked us if that's what we wanted to be. No one asked if I wanted to be, locked in this castle. And, this is why we're exhausted now, right? Some of us aren't just tired, because we didn't get enough sleep. We're tired because we've been emotionally performing in these roles for years. Performing strength, performing joy, performing okay. We've been playing roles that we never even auditioned for. Don't believe me? How many of you are the caretaker, the peacemaker, the provider, the protector? Even as little girls, we were taught how to hold it all together, not how to fall apart safely. Hey, Tasha girl. But y'all know what Disney didn't show us? Disney did not show us the after effects, right? The part where Cinderella wakes up in the castle still triggered every single time somebody yells at her. They didn't show us how Belle from Beauty and the Beast doesn't know how to trust real love because she's used to emotional manipulation. Or how Elsa from Frozen might still flinch when she feels too much because too much used to mean punishment. This is what, we mean when we say that the crown was heavy. Yes, rah, PTSD. Right? Because while they were dancing and dreaming in these cartoons, we were learning how to suppress our emotions, to endure, to survive in silence. And now that we are adults, now we're grown women. We are mothers. We are leaders. But we are still carrying the wounds that we were never allowed to name. And because of that, y'all, we tired. I think I speak for the whole population when I say we tired. She ready? We tired, girl. Right? Tired of being the strong friend. Tired of being the one who's always there but never checked on. Tired of being praised for how much we carry instead of how much we heal. And you know what's even heavier than the crown? The silence. The silence that says, don't talk about it. The silence that says, keep those family secrets. The silence that tells us if we cry, we are weak. But let me tell y'all this. That silence is costing us our sanity. Right, Rara? It's costing us our joy. It's costing us our connection to our children, our peace, our ability to breathe. We cannot keep calling dysfunction normal. Your health, yes, it is costing you something so precious as your health. You are exactly right. We cannot continue, to worshiping this resilience while ignoring the wound that made us resilient in the first place. We've learned how to survive. Now it's time that we learn how to heal. Because exhaustion is not a badge of honor. Burnout is not your birthright. And being strong 24/7, that's not strength. That is survival mode. And I don't know about you, but I want to do more than just survive. I want to thrive. I want to feel. I want to rest. I want to laugh without feeling guilty. I want joy without needing justification. I want to raise daughters who don't flinch when they hear their own voice. I want to raise sons who don't think that softness is a sign of his weakness. But in order for us to do that, that starts with us. It starts with us making room for our own healing. Because if we don't begin to unpack it, then all we're going to do is pass that luggage down to the next generation. So yeah, when you look at it that way, we're exhausted. But we don't have to stay that way. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about giving yourself permission to rewrite the present. To say, yeah, I was taught to survive, but now I choose to live. And let's be honest, most of us are just now learning how to feel, right? Not how to cry in private and, get it together before anybody else sees you, but how to actually sit with an emotion, to name it, to breathe through it, and not feel ashamed for having it in the first place. Because if we're being real, many of us were never taught emotional intelligence. We were taught emotional silence. And we thought it was love, right? We grew up in a generation that said, stop crying before I give you something to cry about. Well, if I'm crying, I already have something to cry about. What else you gonna give me, right? Or what about what happens in this house stays in this house? That's the problem now. It's a lot of toxic mess going on in this house. And it could stay in the house as long as you let me out. Anybody heard you too grown for all that? Right? All of those phrases, that was unhealed trauma passing itself off as the culture. Rara said total dysfunction. Absolutely, sis. And so now that we're grown-ups, standing at the intersection of how we were raised and who we want to be, now things look a little different. So what do? Right? We have to begin to reteach what was never taught. We have to begin to unlearn the toxic ways that, were forced upon us, because we definitely ain't choose it. So now we must begin to model it. We must begin to practice it. Even when it's awkward, even when it gets uncomfortable, we must begin to prioritize our peace. We must begin to fill our own cups up, because clearly ain't nobody going to come and do it for us. And the truth is, you cannot teach, your child how to regulate emotions if you've never been allowed to have your own. And I know that it is not easy. I am another individual out here on this healing journey, taking it step by step, day by day. Right? It's not easy. We're trying to pour into, our babies while our own cup is cracked and leaking. But that's the beauty of this moment. You get to heal with your child. You get to heal with your partner. You get to heal with your friends, right? And we're doing it with them, not just for them. The more we fill our own cups up, the more we prioritize our peace, then the better we become. And the better that we show up, the more that we can do. And once you start doing this, you get to normalize phrases like, how are you feeling right now? It's okay to be angry. Let's talk about it. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that like that. Right? Because as a parent, we say things that we want to take back from time to time. So we have to be humble enough to say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that like that. I shouldn't have reacted like that. Wives out there, I know y'all know, we say things in the heat of the moment that we really don't even mean like that. It's coming from a hurt place. So sometimes we got to go back and tell our partners, hey, babe, I didn't mean that like that. And I apologize for saying that. We got to own it. And, going back to thinking about our children, do you know how powerful it is when a child hears their parents apologize for something? That one act alone breaks chains. Honey, if my mama would just go back and apologize for some of the things that she said and did, I think our relationship would be a lot better. Because that one moment of vulnerability teaches more than 100 lectures ever could. Because children don't learn emotional safety from what we say. They learn it from how we live, from how we talk to them when we're stressed, from how we talk about ourselves in the mirror, from how we show up after we've made a mistake. Because guess what? We are human too. That's where the healing happens. And while we're on the subject of parents, let me speak to the parent who feels guilty. Y'all come to the front of the class. See, maybe you didn't know what to say. Maybe you lost your temper. Maybe you've been so overwhelmed that you just went numb. But sis, you are not a bad mother. You are an unlearning mother. Right? And unlearning is one of the bravest things that you can do for not just yourself, but for your family. Because this journey that we are on is not about perfection. It's about presence. Your children don't need a perfect you. They need a healing you, a human you, an honest you. You give them the language that you were denied. You give them the space that you weren't given. You give them the freedom to be full humans, not just well-behaved kids. And that's why, we don't just talk about mental health. It is key for us to prioritize it. We must protect it. Because when you do, you're not just, preventing the breakdowns. You are literally rewriting and creating blueprints. Blueprints for the future for emotional safety. Blueprints for self-love. Blueprints for freedom. We are raising a generation who will never have to heal from us if we do the work ourselves, right? And that's legacy. And so shifting back into these Disney characters, right? These characters were us, right? They're not just characters on the screen. They're not just stories. These were coded cries for help. And now that we're grown, we can finally see that they were us. So let's go back to Cinderella. That was you. When you kept showing up for people who only called you when they needed something. That was you washing the emotional dishes while everyone else left their mess for you to clean up. That was you hoping that if you were kind enough, quiet enough, strong enough, that someone would show up and see your worth. But Cinderella, you've always been worthy. Even barefoot, even covered in ashes, even when your name was forgotten. You didn't need a prince, you needed peace. Now let me talk to Elsa, y'all. See, that was you when, the one that had all the power and the pain sitting side by side in your chest. When you were told you were too much, so you made yourself be less. When you were told to calm down, so you locked your feelings in a vault and threw away the key. See, Elsa, you froze parts of yourself just to survive, just to get by. But survival is not your destiny. Freedom is. And now you don't have to conceal anymore. You get to feel. You get to be. Tiana, you're the woman who knows how to handle business, but forgot how to rest. The one who kept grinding, kept chasing dreams and approval at the same time. The one who believed that she had to earn ease. But Tiana, rest is not the reward. It's a right. You are allowed to sit down, to breathe, to say, I've done enough for today, and I'm still worthy. Because you are more than your productivity. You are a whole person, a sacred soul. If Rapunzel is in the building, let me talk to you. The version of you that was locked in a situation that looked like love but felt like fear. Maybe it was a toxic relationship. Maybe it was a childhood where control wore the mask of care. Maybe you were groomed to believe that safety meant obedience. But you climbed down from that tower, and that makes you a warrior. You said, I want to know who I am, and that was the beginning of your freedom. That was the beginning of you coming home to yourself. And I cannot forget about Belle, the beautiful Belle, right? That's you who saw the potential in everyone else, even the people who hurt you. That's you who stayed, hoping that love could change the people around you. The you who confused loyalty with sacrifice. But I need you to hear me clearly. You are not responsible for anyone else's transformation. And you don't have to bleed to prove your love. Real love doesn't ask you to lose yourself. It invites you to be more of who you are. We need to understand that these characters didn't just entertain us. They echoed us. They mirrored us. They whispered the parts of our stories that we couldn't say out loud. And now we get to name those parts. We get to write new endings. We get to choose the version of ourselves that doesn't just survive, but thrives. The girl you used to be still lives inside of you. She remembers. She is watching. And every time you choose to heal over hiding, every time you choose truth over trauma, every time you choose rest over running, that little girl inside of you exhales. She smiles. She knows that she's finally safe. And so now that we've peeled back the curtain, what do we do next? What do we do with this truth? Right? What do we do with the realization that we've been performing strength for years? That we've been wearing these pretty crowns made of coping mechanisms, dancing in shoes that never fit while carrying a trauma dressed up as tradition, right? Now we talk about healing in real time, right? We begin to heal. Not some grand, dramatic healing, right? But in small, sacred choices in every single thing that we do every day. Because healing isn't about being fixed. It's about being free. And so sometimes healing looks like doing less and being okay with it. It's the nap you stopped apologizing for. It's the no you finally say without giving a 12-slide explanation. It's the boundary that you hold even when your voice shakes. Healing might look like leaving the group chat that you no longer vibe with, or unfollowing the pages that trigger your comparison, or putting your phone on do not disturb so you can be present with your peace. Healing looks like choosing softness, even when life tries to harden you. Letting yourself cry without feeling weak. It feels like laughing out loud in rooms that used to intimidate you. Like dressing for joy, not approval. It looks like therapy, coaching, journaling, breath work, long walks, long showers, a playlist that knows your heart. Yes, yes, Cardi. Healing looks like taking room to breathe. It looks like grieving the childhood that you didn't get and reparenting yourself with compassion. And let me be clear, healing is not linear, right? It's not going to go in a straight line. Some days you are going to feel like you are glowing. Other days you are going to feel like you are unraveling. But I need for you to hear me. Both are holy. Both are progress. You are allowed to feel joy and grief in the same breath. You are allowed to miss what hurt you and mourn what was never, right? What never was. To celebrate how far you've come, even while nursing what still stings. You don't have to rush. You don't have to get over it. You don't have to pretend. All you have to do is keep choosing yourself. And so you can start here. Start today. Ask yourself, what more do I want? And then you ask for help. Even if it makes you a little nervous, you ask for help. You start to journal your truth, not just your performance, right? You begin speaking kindly to yourself. Speak to yourself in the language that they never chose to speak to you. Hey, Miss Sherry girl. Teach your kids emotional language, even if you're still learning it yourself. You also start to rest without guilt, heal without shame. Because when you choose your mental health, you're not just protecting your peace, you are creating a new blueprint, a new legacy, a new story. And listen, y'all, I promise you, the story that you are writing now, it is going to free generations. And talking about mental health, let me be real about this. Because I know that talking about mental health in, Black families and communities often feels like we are stepping into a minefield, right? It's loaded with generational silence, mistrust, and sometimes straight up denial. We were raised hearing things like keep it in the family, what goes on in this house stays in this house, and don't go out there airing your dirty laundry. And, while protecting our families, sacred, those phrases became the barriers that kept us from getting the support that we desperately needed. That silence over the years, that cost us. It cost us our mental health. It cost us our peace. But today, here's what I want you to know. Breaking that silence is an act of radical self-love and courage. It's not easy. It might be met with resistance or confusion, but it is necessary. And here's how you can lean without breaking down, right? Lean in on this without just completely losing it. It starts with compassion, right? Start with compassion. And when I say start with compassion, I mean compassion for you and them. Remember, many of our elders and family members didn't have the language or the resources for mental health. They were doing the best that they could with what they had, right? And so as we begin to approach these conversations, we must do so with compassion, not judgment. Your healing doesn't invalidate their experience. It simply expands the possibility for all of you. So as we begin to enter this, like I said, you have to do it with compassion. You can use storytelling as a bridge. Okay? People relate to a good story, right? They relate to stories better than lectures. So, share your journey, tell your story, your feelings, your small victories. For example, you could say, I used to think I had to be strong all the time, but I'm unlearning that asking for help is actually strength. And what that does is it invites connection, not confrontation. So if you just start telling a story, that opens the door for the conversation. Number 3, we have to create safe and consistent spaces. Safe and consistent spaces. Conversations about mental health aren't a one and done. You can't just be like, oh, I talked about it, all better, right? They happen over and over again in moments big and small. Maybe it's the Sunday dinner check-in, a quiet car ride, a family Zoom, right? The goal is to build trust so people feel safe opening up. Even if it starts with just you saying, I am feeling tired today, right? You have to name your feelings. What do I say? We cannot heal what we cannot feel. We cannot heal past what we pretend never happened. So we have to begin to open up, consistently expressing yourself, not just saying, I'm okay. When people ask you how you doing, stop just saying, I'm okay. Speak your truth. Tell your story. Thank you. Welcome back, Reading Fundamental. Number 4, we have to normalize seeking help. Mental health is not shameful. It is self-care. Normalize therapy, coaching, support groups, even prayer and meditation as a tool for healing. Share stories with people who've benefited, right? Show that seeking help is a sign of wisdom and self-love, not weakness. We must begin to normalize talking about all of these things that we are going through, right? All of these emotions that we have. We must also honor cultural wisdom while expanding the narrative. So much of what we do is rooted in generations, right, of our culture. And so we can still honor our cultural wisdom and still expand the narrative. We can still think outside of the box. And yeah, our culture is rich with resilience, spirituality, community support. Those are all powerful healing tools. But sometimes healing requires adding new tools, like talking openly about our emotions, like setting boundaries, like practicing self-care without guilt. So we have to balance tradition with growth. That's the key. Another thing that I recommend is for us to begin to equip our children early. And many of us, maybe our children are grown. Maybe we're talking about our grandchildren. Hell, our great-grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, our little cousins, right? We have to begin to equip these children early. It is imperative for us to teach our children, emotional literacy as early as possible from day one, right? Give them the words to name their feelings. You see them mad and you see them throwing a tantrum, you have to tell them, I see that you are upset. It is okay to feel sad. right? You've got to start to model healthy coping strategies. Encourage them to ask for help. My son used to suffer with anger management issues, and I would always look at him and tell him, I see that you're angry, and anger is an emotion that you have the right to feel. But I would remind him that you do not have the right to lash out and hit people, to hurt people, right? So you can feel the feels without acting on them. Letting him know that, yes, it is okay for you to be mad. It is okay for you to be sad. It is okay for you to need to walk away. He would get overstimulated by everything that was happening in class. And then, of course, if the teacher called him out for doing something, now he's angry, he's embarrassed, and it would just be a never-ending battle for him, right? And so I would say it's okay for you to ask to step away. If you're getting frustrated, if your classmates are getting on your nerves, you can go to your teacher and you can simply tell them, hey, these kids are pissing me off, right? Because that's your emotion. That's how you feel in the moment. So you just go to the teacher and you say, hey, these other kids are making me mad. I am frustrated. I am angry. I need time. Request that break. That is teaching the children to advocate for themselves. Because as adults, how many times are we in situations where people are pissing us off? And if I don't get out of this room filled with these people who are pissing me off, I might go to jail. Right? I may resort to doing something or becoming something that I don't want to be. And so we have to teach our children the same thing. We have to encourage them to advocate for themselves and ask for help. Because the more we equip the next generation, the less they'll carry in silence. So again, we must equip the children early. Encourage them to process their emotions. Number 7, we've got to start to seek support ourselves. Okay? Know that you don't have to do this alone. Healing is a community effort. So I encourage each and every one of you to find allies. And I'm talking about friends, coaches, therapists, faith leaders, right? People who can walk alongside of you. The Self-Care Club is just one space designed exactly for this, to support, to uplift, to hold space for your healing journey. Remember, breaking the silence isn't a one-time conversation. It's a movement. It is the beginning. It's showing up again and again and again with vulnerability, with love. It's planting seeds that may take years to grow, but it will blossom into generational freedom. Hey, Rye Guy. So again, I encourage you to just start small, start today, start wherever you are in your journey. Because when we break the silence, we break the chains. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with this, because healing isn't just a moment. It's a movement. So, I always encourage you to keep breathing, right? Not just a shallow breath of survival, but deep, intentional breaths of life. Breathe in your worth. Breathe out your shame. I'm always telling you to stay positive. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because you choose to believe in your healing, even when it feels hard. And I always want you to remember that here in this space, you will always be supported. And when I say supported, I promise you, I mean supported in your messiness, supported in your breakthroughs, supported in your quiet moments and your loud ones. So I don't want you to ever be afraid to take up space. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to rest. Most importantly, don't be afraid to make room for you to breathe. Because your healing creates a space for your children to heal. Your self-love breaks chains for generations to come. Your courage becomes the blueprint for others. I love each and every one of you to life. I want you to know that I see you and that I honor your journey. I pray that each and every one of you have an amazing day on purpose, filled with nothing but purpose. And remember, if today's episode touched you, if it sparked something inside of you, if it reminded you of the princess in you, I want you to take a moment and share this out with someone else who needs to hear this today. I also invite you to head over to our website at theselfcareclub.org, where you can find affirmative apparel, motivational merch, free resources, and just all things Room to Breathe, right? Know that this is your community, your safe space, and your room to breathe. Now, until next time, keep showing up for yourself, keep growing, keep healing, and remember that you are never alone on this journey. Thank you, and have an amazing day, everyone.